Welcome back, everybody, to the Triad of the Forest podcast, a podcast from Puerto Rican friends coming together to do deep dives into Star Wars and other nerd-related media. We are doing Skeleton Crew. We are very, very excited. Today we're going to be focusing on episode 3. Very interesting as an astrogration problem, whatever that means. But before we get into that, we would like to welcome our guest for tonight, Crystal Kyber. Welcome to the Triad.
Welcome.
So excited to have you with us.
Yeah, look, it's
Crystal.
the three of us. It's the Triad.
It's the Triad.
yeah.
That's true. Thank you so much
having
for joining us. Like, I know we have we all have like kind of the same friends on social media, even though social media has been kind of a disaster lately. But it's good to
To say the
finally
least.
connect. I was just telling you before we started recording that for my work holiday party, Chase, aka that gay Jedi, ended up being my date for that, and I was telling them that you were going to be our next guest for that, and they got so excited. Only wonderful things to say about you, and sends you their love. So you got the Chase seal of approval, which means that you got ours. So welcome.
Oh, thank you. I know I love Chase. I'm so happy that they connected us. And yeah, we have a ton of mutuals. So I'm so excited to finally be on the pod. I recognize so many of your guests, and I'm just like,
It's
you.
it's the strategy that we always try to have, you know. It's always, you know, we always want to talk to old friends, but always, you know, always looking to make new friends that are friends of friends, so that
Expanding
the
the
circle,
galaxy.
yeah, expanding our
Yes.
galaxy, expanding our circles, and just, you know, keeping it representational, having like great voices that aren't usually the voices that we're listening to. So thank you.
Period.
Before we get too far with things, I did want to. I mean, I did on the last episode, but I would be remiss if I didn't do it on this one, and that is, Nani, you were sick last week, so I couldn't
Yeah.
say, you know, I couldn't say it to you personally, but congratulations on doing what was expected, what we knew was going to happen, but it's still pleasant
It's
and welcome news.
Mhm.
Congratulations on passing the bar. It was worth
Thank
it.
you.
Congratulations.
It was. And stop saying that it was expected. It's not as easy as you think.
No. I know it wasn't easy, but I know that you are the curve breaker and the nerd of the class. So I knew you were gonna do it.
That's huge. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
So
So
now
I am very excited.
You're lawyered up. Yeah.
Yeah, we're lawyered up. I can't literally sign anything yet because I still have to be approved by the reputation committee and actually juramental. I'm not sure. Get sworn into. Yeah. But yeah, but soon.
Soon, and you know, if you need someone to design your stamp, your notary stamp or anything, I'm around to help out with that. But that being said, we're happy that you're finally done studying, and you can you know, now watch Star Wars and all these silly things and be a professional. But speaking of professionals, Crystal, you have like a very interesting career path too. Why don't you tell us a little bit about like who you are, what's your relationship to Star Wars, like how you connect what you do for work with Star Wars, because I know you do a lot of interesting things with that, specifically on YouTube. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and everything that you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So for my job, I'm a professional makeup artist. I mostly work in print and commercial work, do a lot of advertising, a lot of editorials, beauty. I love it. I've been doing it for over 10 years at this point.
Love
And it comes together with my love of Star Wars because on YouTube I make videos where I talk about Star Wars, different topics, and sometimes other fandoms. And I do my makeup at the same time because I thought that would be a really great way to like kind of target the girlies and just kind of like hang out and have it be more casual and do something cool with makeup. Where I got started with Star Wars, it's been like a whole life thing. I grew up on it. Specifically, I love Rogue One. I love Cassian Andor. I see all the stuff in your background, but it wasn't until The Mandalorian is when I was like, all right, I'm in this fandom.
You're in, yeah.
That's when you really clicked with it.
I think we all have that, like the one thing that we were like, I was in it before, but there's no going, the point of no return.
Right. What was your guys' point of no return? Like, when did you decide, like, all right, this is for me?
I mean, for me, it was like two different points, I guess, because there's the when I was just growing up, like special editions had just come out, so I was just like in the Star Wars world, so to speak, since that, because I remember seeing the posters specifically, like those. I mean, I didn't know at the time, but now I know the Drew Struzan special edition posters like really blew my mind. So when I had those VHS tapes, I would just look at that artwork all the time. But I think contemporary wise, I feel like with the Disney acquisition and the announcement of The Force Awakens, I was just like, that just reawakened, pun intended, like that the fire within. So that was kind of it for me. I mean, there's been like different moments of like blips on the radar, but I think like those
Yeah.
were like the two main ones. What about you, Nanny?
No, come on, I grew up with the original trilogy, obviously, but then it seemed to me like it was something kind of so commonplace because we would watch it on, cable. DVDs weren't even really around, and then when they re-released them, and I went to see them in the theaters for the first time, I think that's the first time I was like, "Yep, I'm hooked forever." And then it would be like in the back of my head, but then when the prequels came out, I was in college, and especially for the last one, I remember I went from graduation. My mom was like, "What do you want to do? Let's go to a fancy dinner." I was like, "No, no, no.
No, we're
We're
gonna
going to
watch
the
Revenge of the
theaters
Sith. Yeah.
to watch the
Right.
Prince of This right now in the theaters." And I mean, it's always been kind of a part of my life, but I find new things all the time because I wasn't really into like the animated portion,
Mhm.
but Hosbando, my husband, really was, and then I got into that aspect, and then now I start to see things with new eyes because I have two nieces that are like 2 and 1 year olds respectively, and I'm just like thinking all
Mhm.
the time, like, where can I get them like introduced into? Which I think Skeleton Crew is actually a
Yeah.
really good intro for kids to get into Star Wars. So I feel like there's something reinvigorating about it that everybody has like a different entry point into it. And
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
do not understand how people can say that Star Wars is stale or
Right.
Yeah.
I don't understand it because I feel like you get influxes of new fans all the time with all the stuff that comes in. Like a lot of people started with The Mandalorian. A lot of people started with Andor.
Mhm.
And then it makes them, go back forth and just explore. And you don't have to love all of it,
Mhm.
but you can still
Yeah.
say you love Star Wars.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
Right.
I mean, you can love only one part of Star Wars, and you're still a Star Wars
right.
fan.
Yeah,
Eh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
and and I definitely want to talk about this latest episode of Skeleton Crew because it was really fun and like I
Yeah.
really enjoyed it a lot. But I would be remiss, Crystal, if I didn't ask you as a makeup artist about some spicy commentary that I've seen on the socials every once in a while when there's an alien that's painted head to toe. Let's not mince words here.
Green.
Like
Oh,
Hera, or and there's been controversy online about the makeup application or the prosthetics about some of these characters. Like I only know so much, right? Because I'm not an expert in that field, but I used to watch Face Off growing up, and I've always
oh
liked
yeah.
VFX stuff. So I try to think that I know something, but
Advice.
uh,
You have
but I
taste.
like but I like to defer to the experts on this. So why don't you give us your spicy take on what has been some of the best or worst applications of Star Wars makeup?
Okay, so I would say the worst is Hera in Ahsoka, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I was really harsh about the hair and makeup when it came out. Like I was like, what is this? But as time has gone on, I'm kind of like, maybe they didn't have the budget. Maybe they didn't
Mhm.
have the time. Maybe this is just what was approved, because when you're doing these things, you have like a million people that it has to like go
Yeah.
through. Because before I was like, how is this okay? Like who
Yeah.
approved this?
Yeah.
But I think
How
maybe
did this
they
get recorded and released?
right, like, who saw
Yeah.
this and was like,
Yeah.
This
"Exactly,
is
like,
good. Yeah.
Cool.
this is good." I think Ahsoka's makeup is also really bad. It
Mm.
looks so
Mhm.
flat to me, and I think another issue might be, like, shooting in the volume and the way that we have, like, our lighting now. Everything kinda has to be flat to shoot in the
Yeah.
volume. You can't have, like, these dimensional lights, and so I think that might also be hurting the makeup. Um, but I would say best makeup? Hmm. Best makeup. I would say, this is a hard one. I really love the prequel era makeup.
Mhm.
And I don't know if it's because it was a movie, so they had like a bigger budget to put into it, but it just looked so good and it fit in the world of Star Wars.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of missing that.
Because for me, and it's really interesting like, to hear your perspective on it because I remember the Harrogate
Yeah,
when Ahsoka was happening. Because for me, like it started with you, like you said, like with Ahsoka herself first when she came out in the Mandalorian. And for me, it was more the her Montrals, the Leku,
yeah,
which I think just looked completely strange
right.
and like foreign to me. And like they were bending the wrong way, which I think
And they
they
couldn't move
right,
correctly. Yeah.
right, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And
yeah.
they improved the prosthetics so much for the show itself. So like Ahsoka, at least for me, like Ahsoka and Hera's makeup never really threw me off. It was always the
Hmm.
contact lenses, like
Yeah,
Oh,
those
yeah.
still
Hmm.
like I'm just like don't we have like good contact lens technology
yes,
to
we
just
do.
At
it's
this
too
point,
much
yeah.
like it's
We
too
do.
blue it's too much
Right.
like I'll accept super saturated green skin, that's fine, they're aliens. But for some reason, I crossed the line on super saturated blue contact
Yeah,
lenses.
because
It
it was
just
too
looks very
much.
strange. Yeah,
Yeah, it was like competing, it had to be like one or the other.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
The other aspect that I think that they failed was wigs, like
Yes.
Bo-Katan's wig in
Yeah.
season 2 of The Mandalorian, absolutely horrible. But I think
Right.
they definitely improved it. But in Ahsoka,
Yeah.
Thrawn's wig, I think was
Yeah.
also absolutely atrocious. And his
Yeah.
makeup was also not great. I don't know. Maybe it's because they didn't do
Right.
the prosthetics to like have the
Right.
longer. For I don't know. That's it feels like it's a nitpick coming from me, but
Well,
at
like
least
get
it
the
feels
black
validated
girlies
when
in
you say it.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like where are the people of color behind the scenes, like making sure these wigs are laid,
Yeah. I don't know. We gotta talk to the DEI department at Lucasfilm and start
Right.
making some
I'll
better
get in
hires because
and I'll let you
Yeah.
guys know.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Please
yeah.
do.
So hopefully they're listening to this and improving on everything. And like for based on what I've seen, they always mess up the first time, and the next time it's at least marginally better. But
Right.
where things kind of have been consistently good right out of the bat has been Skeleton Crew. And last week, Nana, you weren't here, so I haven't gotten to hear your takes on Skeleton Crew, and obviously, Crystal, I haven't heard yours. So, like, before we get into episode 3, whatever astrological new word for Star Wars in the title that we have, I want to hear y'all's reaction to how you feel about Skeleton Crew so far. And Crystal, you're like our guest, so let's start with you.
Yeah.
How have you felt?
I am really enjoying it so far. I think that it is so much fun. The characters feel so real to me. It feels like real kid dynamic. I think that it's really clever and smart and funny, and it just keeps moving. So I'm really excited to see where this story goes.
Nani, what about you?
Yeah, so I think we've talked about this before, Goose, that when Skeleton Crew was first announced, it wasn't really one of those shows that we were like,
Hmm.
immediately excited about. We were just like, oh, okay, it's Jude Law with some kids, and who knows what this is. But then this trailer started coming out. It looked really interesting. And then those first 2 episodes, obviously, we're going to get into episode 3. But it's like Goonies in space. And Treasure Planet and Pirates of the Caribbean. And Hosbando, who's a huge fan, he says it's actually One Piece, in
Oh,
Oh,
reverse.
I mean, I haven't seen One
Because
Piece,
oh,
but I get it.
yeah.
yeah, and he's like, because they actually come from the One Piece and now they're trying to get back to the One Piece. So it's
Mhm.
like,
Oh,
and he was just like the other day we were watching and he's like, oh my god, this is One Piece in Star Wars. My mind is
oh,
blown. So, I mean, we're enjoying it so much. It's kind of like a breath of fresh air because it's just like this adventure that you weren't really expecting. And it's like, there's some whimsical parts to it. The soundtrack is really
Mhm,
good.
mhm,
The
mhm.
cinematography is fantastic. I mean, the creature creations I think are great. We'll get into that with you, who are a better expert at this,
Mhm.
Crystal. But I think so much is unexpected. And just like you were saying, it's a fun adventure so far. So I I'm really having fun with it.
Yeah, it's one
yeah.
of those things that
Unexpected is a good word.
yeah,
Yeah.
because I mean, there are expectations of like what I
Mm-hmm.
thought. It's a Stranger Things in
Mm-hmm.
space. It's the Goonies. It's this. So there's
Yeah.
like some notion of like what we're getting
Mm-hmm.
into, but it's also refreshing because we haven't really
Yeah.
seen this kind of fun atmosphere in Star Wars, and I think that there has been a relaxing aspect
Aside
to
from
the.
animation, because
Oh,
animation,
yeah, yeah,
especially with the Bad Batch, we've gotten a lot of these whimsical, awesome things, but we really haven't seen it in live action. It's really great to see it transition
yeah.
and have it work in live action.
And there's an aspect that I don't know how to approach it, because some part of me feels like, oh, the reaction to it has been like so positive now, but it's also like a biased opinion because we're not checking Twitter anymore or engaging with it, so now
Yeah.
we're almost exclusively on Blue Sky. So obviously there's a much more positive environment there. So based on that bubble, like I don't know how representative it is of people at large, but I also think that Skeleton Crew has had a upper hand in many ways to other Star Wars shows, because it's lower stakes. It can be silly, it can be goofy, it can have fun. It's not trying to reinvent the galaxy. So there's a certain calm, I think, that comes with it that also lets people accept it, even though it's also a diverse show. We have like the one
Yeah.
character that has two moms. We have like a lot
Yeah.
of people of color on the show too. So it's
Mm-hmm.
just that it's maybe not as diverse as the Acolyte, but it is diverse. So it is telling
Yeah.
uh, stories within that. It is making like political,
Mm-hmm.
no, nuanced political statements in the background about
Yeah.
suburbs and corporate America and like all these things.
Mm-hmm.
But because it's under the veneer of a quote unquote kids
Yeah.
show, I think people let it get away with it, even though it's kind of doing the same things that other shows have
Yeah.
been doing. So
I think it's a little bit more about what is palatable,
yeah, 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 yeah.
which is hypocritical, but it's
But
fine.
it's good,
Right.
man.
That's a whole
Especially,
other podcast.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a whole nother episode.
yeah. Especially during the holidays. I'm very happy that like we've had
To
this
have fun with Star Wars again,
have
and
fun with
have
that.
people
Yeah,
not being overly hateful, and just it's great.
it's a
Yes.
palate cleanser because
It is.
Yeah,
I mean I've said
it's a
it.
breath of fresh air a little
Yeah,
bit. It's just it's gorgeous,
yeah,
especially
yeah,
this
Yeah.
episode. It was, oh my god, it was so beautiful. So
definitely.
let's
So
get
let's
into the
let's just
episode.
let's get into it.
Yeah.
Crystal, like, what was your opinion about this one? We got the reveal at the end of episode 2 of a Jude Law's Narwood, or whatever the hell his name is, because we still don't know who his actual identity might
There's
be.
3 names so far.
Right.
Crimson Jack,
Yeah.
Narwood, and Captain Silva, I think, are the 3 names that we have so far.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And now he uses the Force, and I think we can, at least I feel confident saying that he can actually use the Force.
Yeah.
So we see the hijinks that adult pirate Jude Law gets with children. So what was your reaction to this episode, and particularly the MVP Kh'ymm?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really liked this episode. The whole time I was watching it, I kept like giggling because I really love the dynamic between all the kids. And then you throw in like Jod also, and he
Yeah.
is just like, he has his own agenda, but he's kind of having to like
Yeah.
babysit these kids. So he's
Mhm.
not really like a parental figure. So it's funny how he like talks
Yeah.
back to them, and he just like he has like all these smart ass things to say to them, and like they're just kind of like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like this show does a really good job with like the dialogue between the characters. Like we learn
Yeah.
so much about each of the kids just in like how they interact with each other, how they interact with their environment. So I really, really appreciate like those small details about what drives the characters. I also really love Neel. He is my
Mhm.
favorite
Yeah.
character, but I love
Bless
when
his soul, yeah.
I love when he got told to like drive the ship, and everyone was
Yeah.
like, "What?"
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He's like, just
Um,
invade. It's okay.
right.
You just wiggle it.
In my notes, I have Neel is me on Smuggler's Run.
Oh my God, yes.
Have you ever
Yeah.
piloted
That
Smuggler's
tracks.
Run?
I
I just
mean,
love like this
Yes.
the whole
pi-
time.
piloting is a loose term.
Yeah,
I have been on
crashing.
Smuggler's Run.
Right. But yeah, I was like, that is so me. I
Yeah.
also love SM33
Yeah.
and his little like A bit. It is so
Mhm,
good and
mhm.
Oh
so
yeah, that
funny.
I and he walks
Yeah.
away, hides a little bit and comes back. I
Yeah.
and leaves again. Oh my god, it kills me. I
So good.
mean,
And
Star
he's
Wars
just
has
like
been doing
punch.
so well with
Yeah.
droids. And then every single time I get more and more involved, like IG-11 in The Mandalorian was insane, but SM33 is like he's
Yeah.
up there because the whole fact that you have a rat living inside
Yeah.
Yeah.
your one eye that is gone and you crouch just to look more piratey and then
Yeah.
Jod like kind of gives him attitude and he goes up to his
Mhm,
actual
mhm,
height and is
mhm.
like what.
Right.
But
And the fact
I
that he's already completely loyal to the kids, it's like
that's
Yeah.
exactly what I was gonna say. Like doing the 180
hmm
from the first or second
hmm
episode, in
Mm.
which he's very like
hmm
anti the kids and whatnot, and then all of a sudden to
yeah
be like their protector. It's very
yeah
Yeah.
endearing. And I mean, for me, I have a very soft spot for both Kh'ymm, whom we'll get to, but also
Yeah.
yeah
SM33 because growing up I loved the Disney Peter Pan film, and I thought
yeah
Smee was a hilarious character, so I always
so
loved
he's
that
your
growing
Smee.
up. Yeah, I mean, and
Yeah
then watching Hook, the Steven
yeah
Oh
Spielberg Hook
yeah.
with Robin Williams and
yeah
Dustin Hoffman, seeing oh my god, I forgot the actor who plays me in that one. Apologies, he played Mario in the Super
Bob
Mario Bros.
Hoskins.
Thank you, Bob Hoskins' version of Smee was also like amazing. So Smee has always been like that pirate character that has been such a joy to watch. So to see like the
yeah
Star Wars version of
I
him,
know.
it's a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to seeing the dynamic between Jude Law and
Yeah,
SM33
now
shift.
that he's kind of been accepted into the
Yeah,
crew,
yeah,
but SM acknowledges Fern as
as
his
the captain.
captain, you
Right.
Hmm.
know? Who
Hmm.
I love Fern, by the way. She's a little
Yeah.
hellion, and I love her
She
so much,
is.
And
which
she
is so
got one
great
of
from the
the
beginning.
funniest moments in the show last episode.
And in this episode, when they're like, okay, time to go to sleep, she's like,
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
not
not even
tired.
tired. Yeah.
Like, how
It,
little kid is that? That is like the most
Yep.
little kid thing
because it's so
ever.
great because they've written her like she tries
It's
to be
still
so
me.
grown up, and then when she acts like she is probably like what 12.
Oh, I
So
thought she was like 9.
I don't know. I don't
no,
know how young kids
I
are,
think
to be
like
honest.
I feel like the girls are a little bit older than the boys. I see the boys as like 8 or 9, and them being like 10 or 12, like around there. The girls, because I feel, or maybe girls mature more than
Right.
boys do
That's just
originally.
science.
Yeah.
That's true.
Because in those first 2 episodes, it was really clever. I love that it's like, oh god, boys are so easily manipulated, and
Hmm.
then in
Yeah.
this episode was only the girls have like this instinct of self-preservation. Like they were suspicious from
Right.
the beginning, but the boys were immediately like, it's a Jedi. Awesome. We're in,
Right.
Hmm.
Right.
Hmm.
So the whole time it's like, oh, boys are so stupid.
Yeah. I know they're trying to impress him.
Sorry.
Like,
Hmm. It's true. I
Yeah,
I can't argue with facts.
I know.
You're
But Fern
absolutely
was great, like from the beginning. And like you were saying, Crystal, like the dynamics are so hilarious because as soon it's like, oh, he just thinks we're gonna blast off as soon as he leaves. And then Fern's like, we should blast off right
yeah.
now before he
Right.
comes back. Like we're done.
Right.
So
He's like, because we are.
yeah, because this is done. Like we are not
Right.
trusting this person. So I don't know. I just think it's like really well written and
yeah.
it's really well paced, like the whole time you're like fully engaged with them.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I don't know. It's really fun. And it's still, I think you mentioned Goose last time that it's really so jarring that the episode starts again. You like go back to the suburbs.
Hmm.
It's really right. It's like strange to see just usual suburbs in Star Wars. And
Yeah.
and why should it be? I mean, if it's an entire galaxy, why are we surprised that there are actual, suburbs?
But I, I
I don't
and
know.
I and I think it sets up something that's gonna be like really interesting, like moving forward, especially with the reveal that Kim did about the jewels of the old republic
Yeah.
and how this is
Mhm.
the last planet that's left that is that, which I mean I don't presume to say that the suburbs are a jewel of contemporary Western society. I vehemently disagree with that statement, but I think
Right.
it's an interesting thing to hide this jewel or treasure planet for lack of a
Yeah.
better term, within the banality, right? With among the boringness, among the
Among the
suburban
boring, you hide
sprawl.
a treasure. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think
Yeah.
it's really clever in that way to use what is something that's so present and taken for granted, like in our society. It's like, yeah, the suburbs are this thing that exists, and
Well,
then like
I mean,
hide a
it was
deeper
like
truth.
really Pleasantville, wasn't it?
Mhm. Yeah.
Because it's like
Yeah.
this ideal society, and it's like we don't leave the barrier. We can't communicate outside of the barrier. We do the great work, and they still think that the war didn't happen,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
weird.
which was really interesting. That in a couple of sentences, you find out, oh, we found out about Coruscant and Alderaan. Alderaan?
Yeah, that was funny though. And they're like,
Right.
"Oh,
You
you
missed
don't know
the
what
war?
happened. You
It's
don't know what
like,
happened
what
to
war?
Alderaan."
Interesting. Oh, and by the way, sorry, it came to me that one time when Jude Law's character is trying to get SM-33 and he gets the separatist droid and the
Mhm.
droid wakes up. It's like,
Did
did
we
we
win?
win? And then
Yeah,
crashes.
yeah,
That slayed me.
so good. Also, so we find out there is a supervisor
Mhm, mhm,
in at
Right.
Addon. Like, what is
Mhm.
that about?
mhm,
Like,
mhm.
what is the
Wasn't it
supervisor?
creepy?
So weird. It was very
Yeah.
weird and
Mhm.
frustrating too.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
but the interesting thing about that though is that all the proxies of the supervisor are droids, right? So it's like this
Mhm.
faceless, monotonous
Yeah.
entity, right? That is just controlling everything. Which again, like we were saying at the beginning, just because it's a kids show doesn't mean that it's not making any statements about society at large. But like
Mhm.
especially like now in these like hypercharged political times that
Yeah.
we're living in, to kind of see like what faceless conformity is and what the
Yeah.
systems of control
Right.
put down upon you, and like how it is like this blank thing that like none of the kids know what their parents work at. They're analysts, but what are they analyzing? And it's like
Yeah.
doing this thing that's also isolated, and if you leave the system of
Yeah.
control, you're not gonna
Mhm.
be helped even though you're kids. It's like
Because
there's
it's unlawful to leave
right, it's
at
just a lot
all
of
or communicate or anything.
darkness.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I wonder if in that regard, like the supervisors, like in one of those AI intelligence things, like
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
like Captain
Yeah.
Marvel or so many other movies that we've seen, that's just like or Westworld, that's just like controlling everything because it's the last directive it got after the
Yeah, and it's
old
like, this is what
Republic
you're supposed to do.
disconnected.
Mhm.
Right. Or like a Wizard of Oz
Yeah,
sort
yeah.
of deal where
Oh,
it's like,
I
this
like
big,
that.
scary supervisor and it's just like one person trying to hold it together.
Behind a
Yeah, I like
microphone
that. I
being
like
like,
that.
"This is scary.
Right.
You
I
can't
like
do
that. I
this."
like that. I like the Wizard of Oz stuff. I
Right.
don't know why I don't think about that because Ken and I were talking about it the last episode, but it's so appropriate, right? Because a couple weeks ago just saw Wicked, so I'm just like, damn,
Yeah.
yeah, we
We're
need
not
we
in
need to,
Kansas anymore.
we need more. Yeah,
Right.
we need more Wizard of Oz. I
I know,
dig it.
me too. It's fresh here.
Yeah, it's well, I'm not gonna deny or confirm if I try to do the defying gravity thing, but whatever. Maybe someday at karaoke.
Yeah.
But one of the reveals of the show we were just talking about, which is how Atten is one of the uh, jewels
Jewels
of
of the
the old
Republic.
Republic,
Mhm.
and that reveal comes from no less than the best character ever made, probably in Kh'ymm, the wise owl that might or might not have had a fling with Jude Law. I don't know. Like there,
Right.
there was a lot
Right.
of
Yeah,
things
there was some
open
tension.
for, yeah, a
Right.
lot of things
There
open for
was.
interpretation there.
Right.
So. Crystal, yeah, what was your reaction to when we arrive at the moon base or asteroid base or whatever the hell it was, and then we see the reveal of Kh'ymm, whom I did not expect. I thought we were gonna get like the one red light district girl from the last episode was gonna
Right.
be there. I thought that
Yeah.
was who was gonna be there for some reason, but we get this magnificent owl. So what was your reaction to her?
I was very surprised by the owl as well. I thought that she was a really fun character. Again, she feels very solid as a
Yeah.
character also. I thought a lot of the things that she had to say was really interesting, like that Adam has been purposefully hidden.
Mhm.
Um, I think I want to know more about her and Jod's
Mhm,
backstory.
mhm,
Like
mhm.
I
Yeah.
like how Jod had to like warn the kids, like, hey, she might try to backstab us, and her backstabbing him is by trying to help the kids. Like
Right, right,
but
Yeah.
right,
also,
right.
he didn't want to tell her about Addin. Like she was like, what are you guys looking for? And he's like,
Mhm.
let me handle this.
Mhm.
And the kids are like, they don't understand. He's trying to keep
Yeah.
it for himself. So I think
Mhm.
that was really interesting.
Well, because kids are gonna be kids, right? Kids don't think
Right.
that adults are gonna betray them because adults like just like parents. He's like, yeah,
Well,
adults
and
are
it's so
gonna
Yeah.
always
telling
do the
when
right
he
thing.
says it, when he says they're gonna stab you in the back, and he's like, "Stab?" It's like, well, that's I
Right.
don't mean it literally. It's like a metaphor, and they're like, we don't get it. Oh, it's fine. You'll
Right.
get it when you're older. I mean, because children, I mean, it's that wonder, and I think that's part of why the show's working so well, because you juxtapose like this scoundrel, this
Hmm.
guy that we know for sure can use the force, but there's three different names to him. He's been after a treasure for however long it is, and it it's like this jaded person, and then you kind of contrast that with the kids who are
Hmm.
just kind of just full of
Naive.
wonder and naivete, and they're just like on this adventure that they weren't really planning on, even though they wanted it, because they continuously talk about how An is incredibly boring.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
And it's just, I think that's where the magic in the show is. And then Kh'ymm was so great. I was really not expecting it. Like, as soon I the character design is so fantastic. The voice works so well with her. I love that she's like super intelligent but a hoarder at the same
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And lots
It's
of
like
lots of smart people are. You got to have those books.
it's
You
like
need your
I
books.
see
Right.
you cleaned up. Oh no, I have knickknacks from like 1,000
Right.
worlds,
Also, don't touch anything because it's all
Yeah.
exactly where it needs to be.
Yeah. It looks
She has
like
a
a mess, but I
system.
know where it goes. Yeah.
Right. Right.
I sympathize with
Chill with
that.
my
Yeah.
OCD, please.
Like just because it's a mess doesn't mean it's not organized.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
She knew
Um
exactly where to find that stuff about Aden.
Yeah.
So
Of course she did. She was like, as soon as she heard the name, she's like, excuse me, I know exactly where the scroll is. I will
Which
find it right now.
which might be a nitpick, but I did think it was like too fast. Like this planet that's been lost for millennia, maybe that no
right.
one knows
Well,
where it is and everything. All of a sudden, she asked 5 questions, and like she did like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, and she got it,
Right. Right.
immediately. It's a nitpick. It's a nitpick.
No, I
well, but
kind of agree
it's
with you.
and I might actually disagree with both of you, because the way she spoke about it, it sounds like a lifetime obsession. So she
Mhm.
probably
Okay. Okay.
knew, like, exactly. She probably had an Atten corner
Right. 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 Right.
specified
On
of
her
all of that stuff.
spare time, she would dig
Yeah.
up dig up that info.
All right.
I dig it.
Yeah. I can get down with that. But I didn't like how, we spent like the last 2 weeks kind of like speculating, like, oh, what's going on at Adam? Is it
Yeah.
from the High Republic? Like,
Yeah.
what is this? And then it all kind of was just told to us right away. I wish that there was like some way to delay it
A
or
little bit
But
guess.
more.
But
Yeah.
that's but I do like that because same with Jude Law's character, where like the cold open of the show is Captain Silva and like the
Hmm.
mutiny of his crew and everything. So when Jude Law comes up, everyone's just like, oh, is he Captain Silva? Is it a different character?
Hmm.
So
Right.
I appreciate that like some of these mysteries are just like, okay, yes, he is. From
Yeah.
his old crewmate that like confirmed that he is the captain. I like that mysteries are being revealed as we go, but so that it
Mm-hmm.
opens new mysteries as opposed to just like
And like
dangling it.
deeper
Yeah,
mysteries. Yeah.
as opposed
Mm,
to just
Hmm.
dangling
okay.
everything.
True.
So you're just like, because I feel that if you just dangle the whole thing and then wait till the end to reveal everything, one, I don't think you have time to just solve
And
resolve
it feels a little bit
everything you set
convoluted,
up.
because then you kind of wrap something in a bow, and
Yeah,
you don't feel like that
Right.
natural progression of it. So things that we thought
yeah,
were the deep mysteries are actually like the superficial
right,
ones that we find out
exactly,
at the beginning, and then
exactly.
we're getting into more mysteries, which is great. And the soundtrack kind of works with that, because sometimes
Yeah,
it's like a straightforward message, and you hear something mysterious like in the
yeah, yeah,
soundtrack
yeah.
in the back, and it's like, where are we going with this? So I mean, it's way more thoughtful than I thought it was going to be. Honestly, I thought it
Mm,
was going to be like
mm.
a straight up like adventure show,
Mhm.
and not, I don't know, just I'm like really invested.
It
Those
is,
are really
and
good points.
it's
Yeah.
one of those things too of which Star Wars has always done well, but I think this show is kind of excelling at particularly well at, which is just again reinterpreting tropes that we're already familiar
Hmm.
with, and then making them feel exciting in many ways. Because like I mean, we talked about it's the suburbs, but it's the Star Wars twist on the suburbs, which makes them
Yeah.
a little more interesting. Like it's pirates, but it's Star Wars pirates, so there's
Hmm.
a whole bunch of tropey things about them. But when you give that special Star Wars love and all of the design of the characters and how they behave and like how they interact with each other, it makes it even that much more special. Because I mean, yeah, this is me SM33. You have a traditional character from Peter Pan, but reinterpreted through
Yeah.
a Star Wars lens, which makes it familiar but exciting at the same time. And to go back to Kh'ymm, it's just the interpretation of like owls in mythology
Yeah.
that represent wisdom. And for me, like the first thing that I was
It's like
thinking,
Archimedes,
that's exactly what I was
Merlin.
thinking about. Because growing up, I used to love The
Yeah.
Sword in the Stone. That was one of my
Yeah.
favorite movies growing up, and for me, like Merlin and Archimedes were like my favorite
Hmm.
characters because they were just the banter amongst between the both of
Yeah.
them was so hilarious. So to kind of see like a modern Star Wars version of Archimedes was kind of very similar in that way. It's like
Yeah.
the big smart character who's at odds with the person that they're dealing with, and in this
And she
case
basically
is
lives
Jude
in a
Law.
tower on the moon,
Mhm.
so it tracks.
So it's been great, and even the music. Now you brought up the music a
Right.
Yeah.
couple of times, and a lot of it is familiar, right? Because when we were
Yeah.
I keep calling it. Oh, now I forgot what I used to call it because I keep calling the pirate asteroid the same name from Tortuga. I kept calling it from Pirates of the
Tortuga from.
Caribbean. Uh, but they have like the same cadence of Pirates of the Caribbean music or Muppet
Hmm.
Treasure Island music of like the slow like cellos or whatever. But with that Star Wars twist, it kind of gives it that vibe. But you're like, okay, this still fits within the universe. And then
Hmm.
with Kh'ymm, with kind of the mysterious
Yeah.
'60s type sounds
Yeah.
with the music, it just complements it in a very fun way. So I don't know. I've definitely enjoyed it, and this is just the third episode, so
I
I
know.
I can only imagine what other surprises we have because we've seen already a lot of what the trailers have been showing us. So any other reactions, Crystal, that you've had towards the show? Because I know something else that I like was seeing New Republic X-wings. So what other
Yeah.
tidbits of the show of this episode have you like really been drawn to?
Oh, yeah. I just wanted to, like, mention KB's 2 moms. I
Hmm,
thought that
hmm, hmm,
that was really cool because
Hmm.
my mom is gay, so I
hmm,
had 2 women figure in my
hmm,
life, and I'm also Asian, so KB's Asian, so it was really cool to,
hmm.
like,
Love that.
see that in Star
Yeah.
Wars. I don't know, that just made me, like, really excited, and I like that it wasn't about, like, the 2 moms
Right.
being gay. It was just
Yeah.
like, "Oh,
They
yeah,
We're
exist.
worried about our kid.
here are the parents. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
and they're just
Hmm.
there's 2 same-sex
Hmm,
people,
hmm,
so I
hmm.
really, really liked that, and I liked that it wasn't, like, this big moment, like, "Oh my god, like, she has 2 moms," it's very
Right, right.
No.
normal, very, like, let's just keep going with the plot, so I really liked that.
It's a good.
And
That's a
especially, I
good
think
point. Yeah.
KB's like the smartest one. I love when
Yes.
they're trying to hide it, and she's the one that notices, like, hold, and it's like, oh, I guess KB has the force too.
Yeah.
She's
But
Yeah.
another thing that they set up like for coming episodes with her was the fact that like they like her mom's and intuit that she has like a medical condition or something and she needs to kind
Yeah.
of return to the planet for. So I wouldn't mind that. Obviously, that's a setup for something that is going
okay.
to
Hmm.
happen in some other episodes. So there's a lot more to explore with these characters, which I think again like each one has very unique personalities and regardless of the writing of the show, I feel like it's also a credit to the showrunners and directors to let the kids be kids because
Yes.
you
Yeah.
can write a kid, but only a kid
Yeah.
can be a kid. So like I wouldn't I have to imagine that they gave like all these like young actors the opportunity to kind of interpret things their way to inject a little bit of their personalities to it because it just feels genuine,
It
you know.
I
does.
mean, like when Win gets into like the turret seat and he just like runs the whole thing around,
Yeah.
and
Right.
it's like, don't you should not do that. But if you were a kid and you got into a turret seat, that's exactly what you would
Exactly what
do.
you would do.
Run
Right.
it around.
Oh,
He was
but
living his best life.
that scene kind of scared me a little bit because I'm just like,
Yeah,
wait,
I
are they
was
just
like,
gonna
is he gonna shoot himself?
exactly?
Is
No,
he-
no, no. What I was thinking is just like, are they gonna show kids killing like New Republic pilots? Because
Right.
Oh
that's
yeah.
like it'll be fun. Like, oh yeah, we shut them down, but then
Mhm.
it's just like you just murdered
Right.
somebody.
Right.
So I'm glad
I
that that didn't happen. That they
You're eight
missed
and you're
and
committing murder.
yeah,
Don't do that.
Right. I was like,
I'm
these
like
kids don't understand like what is actually happening.
Yeah.
Like Wim is so excited. Like he's like,
mhm,
I got this. Like this is an adventure he always wanted. But I'm like,
Yeah.
Wim, this is not who you should
yeah.
be listening to or shooting at. Like, But it's fun. I
Yeah.
love like when they were all like arguing about Jod telling them what to do, and Fern was like, "I'm the captain," and they're like bickering, and then he
Yep.
puts her like in the gun place, and he's like,
Yeah.
"All right, captain, get in there."
Get in.
But
And
that
she's
was
like, okay,
so, yeah,
I'll shoot
so
things.
funny. Right,
Yeah.
right. The
And
little kid, so
I
funny.
think that's what works about that interaction between the kids and Jude Law is that, I mean, yeah, sure, like Jude Law's character is an adult, but just because you're an adult doesn't mean you're a grown up,
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
or vice versa. So I think that there's a lot of vulnerability to his character
Yeah.
where he's again Peter Pan. Like he might have just
Yeah.
never grown up, and it's one of those things where like there is a kinship between
Yeah.
the kids and his character because they both have things that they're missing, and I think they're gonna find it with each
Yeah.
other, right? And I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
that it's a cliche story, but it's a story that works always,
I know.
especially
Well, and
if it's done
especially
very
towards the
well.
end with his character when he admits to them, I'm just like you. I'm lost.
Mhm,
I'm
mhm,
alone. That's all I want. And I do love that when he says like, "Oh, it's going to be a partnership," and KB's like, "No, no, no. You work for us."
mhm, mhm.
Yeah, right. Do you think that he was lying though? Like, do you think that that just like came to him and he was like, "Oh, I'm by myself. I'm just like you."
Honestly,
Do you
I
think that was
think
a
that is to
manipulation?
the truth of who he is. The
Yeah,
part that he is alone and he's lost. I think that is a core attribute to him. But I
I think he
don't.
thinks
We
he's lying. I
Oh,
think
because
where
he's
like
he's
saying
that?
trying to
he's
be
saying
this
what,
guy
yeah,
who's
yeah,
a pirate and
right,
he's a
right,
bad guy and he's convinced himself that it's all
right.
about the loot. But
Mhm.
I
Mm.
think deep in the core of what his character is that he's lost and alone and he's gonna find
Oh,
family with the
Yeah,
kids. I
yeah.
feel like we're gonna get a
yeah, he's
ghost
a lost
family
The
boy.
real,
with these
yeah,
guys. Yes, he's a
the real
lost boy.
treasure, the
Thank
real
you,
treasure
Crystal.
is the friends we made along the
The
way.
family.
Exactly.
Hmm.
It's that.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's one
He's
of
the
those things
lost
where
boy.
we could. He is. But aren't we all though? And
Yeah.
that's why
Aren't we
we
all?
we all need to find our own skeleton crews. But we could be talking about like this show like for forever, and we will for the next couple of weeks. But before we wrap up, obviously there's we're episode 3, so there's still a couple episodes left. More mysteries to discover. So it's always fun to do some responsible speculation and then something just in fun and nothing serious because we can't take our speculation too seriously because then we'll only just disappoint each other.
Right.
So Crystal, starting with you, I mean, you've told us everything you've loved about the show so far and the journey that we are going with it. But what are your expectations for what's going to happen in episode 4, or what are mysteries that you're looking forward to finding out more about? Like, speculate for the next episode and the series as a whole. What are you expecting?
Right. I don't know. I thought I had expectations going into this, but like I said, they kind of had been revealing things along the
Yeah.
way. So now I'm kind of like, I don't know where we're going. I don't know what's happening, but I'm really interested to see like in the next coming episodes what is going to be referenced from episode 3, because I feel like they're dropping a lot of things like, oh, KB
Yeah.
does have the Force, or she does have like this medical thing that she needs. Like I think we're
Yeah.
learning things along the way that are going to be prominent later on in the story, and I think that that is really exciting to me. Like what are we going to find out? But yeah.
Yeah.
Nani, what about you? What's your
Well,
what are
yeah.
your
I mean,
expectations?
now that you're mentioning like the medical thing, it kind of sounds to me a little bit like maybe she's diabetic and she needs like her insulin. Like there's something that she
Space
can only get
diabetes.
from,
Yeah.
yeah, like there's something that she can only get from home, or maybe that was a lie to begin with, that they told the parents that they
Oh.
couldn't leave
Oh, like an
because they
it.
wouldn't get, yeah.
Hmm.
So I don't know.
Interesting.
There's a lot of mysteries. And then honestly, when I was like, after the first 2 episodes, I thought the entire show was going to be like them on the journey. And then the end was them coming back. But now
Mhm.
that they already have the coordinates and we know that there's something totally sketchy going on back home, I'm thinking that we're going to be getting from both sides a little bit, just like we got in this one. Like we got the parents at the beginning. So I think we're going to see things start to maybe unravel in the home planet because the parents are not going to let their kids just disappear and the supervisor be like, well, they're gone, just deal with it now.
Right.
So and those parents seem like actually worried. Not those
Right.
parents are like, oh, it's fine, it's the status quo, they left, it's okay, like they're really invested. So I think we're going to get a little bit of both sides of it, and I think we're going to get back to the home planet earlier than we think, and then there's going to be more drama from there.
Right.
So
Mm.
I think so.
Mhm.
I think you're right.
I don't know. And there's a chance that maybe some of the other like treasure planets are alive, even though they think they're all
Right.
dead. Like there's a chance,
That's what I
like
was
if
thinking.
they, yeah, like if Atten's alive, why are all the other ones dead? You know?
Right.
So
I dig
I
it.
don't
And
know.
that way, like we can have multiple seasons, and each season is like finding one of
The
the
different
other
ones?
jewels. I dig it. But no,
Yeah.
I agree with a lot of this, and a lot of
What do you think?
uh, a lot of speculation and theories
Mhm.
that everyone has been having is centered around Jude Law's character. And honestly, like I mean, no disrespect to a lot of our friends that
Yeah.
speculate on Blue Sky and everything, but a lot of it's just like so boring, right? Because everyone's just like, oh, is he a Order 66 survivor and all these things? And I'm like,
Yeah.
can we just drop it? You know, can we just let
I
people
know.
that use the Force just be people that use the Force? Can't he just
Yeah.
be some guy? You know,
Right.
like sure, if you want to connect it somehow to the Jedi, maybe he was abandoned in a temple in the outskirts or something like that. But I just want him to not be a Jedi. I want him to not be a survivor. I want him to just be some guy who happens to use the Force, and he just kind of lucked his
By
way
trial and
into.
error,
Yeah,
kind of figured it out, and
exactly, exactly.
yeah.
So like I want well, and part of me wants that selfishly because I'm still a fan of Rey Nobody. You know, I still want
Yeah.
the kind of
Mm.
tie back to anyone can use the Force, and you can be a hero from
Yeah.
anywhere. You don't have to come from a lineage or from an academy. You know, the Jedi Academy. So that's kind of
Right.
like what I want for Jod. But at the end of it, I also want to see what the confrontation is going to be like, because we know that the his old pirate crew is out to
Yeah.
find him. So
Yeah. There's a bounty on him.
something's gonna happen at Atten. What I don't want it to become is a Seven Samurai situation where they have to train the
Yeah.
parents to then
Again.
fight the pirates. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
we've seen Seven
Yeah.
Samurai in Star Wars
Hmm.
so many times that we can just do this different. I just want a Home Alone situation or a Stranger Things situation where it's just the kids figuring it out on their own and the kids saving the
Yeah.
parents without having to have some training montage. But ultimately, I just want to be surprised. I just want to have fun and not have to think about it too much, because I think it's somehow more enjoyable that way. Just come in as a blank slate and
Yeah.
eat up everything that are feeding us, because it's been really
It's
good
a
so far.
fun adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. It really is.
But yeah, I mean, and like I said, we could be talking about this forever. There's so much to talk about, and we will continue talking about it. But before we sign off for today and until next week, Crystal, thank you so much for joining us. This has been such a lovely, lovely time. It's better late than never, so I'm glad that everything worked out. But before we sign off, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you? What are you up to? Like, what are your socials? Let everyone know everything about you and where they can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me on Instagram, YouTube, Blue Sky, Twitter. I haven't left Twitter, unfortunately, but
It's
it's
okay. It's
just
okay.
look up Crystal Kyber. I also have a fandom clothing brand called Bad Feeling, and we do have some Star Wars stuff now. So trying to represent our community.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, that's what I got going on, and I am so grateful to have been here to talk about this with you guys. Thank you so much for having me on. It's just so fun.
No, no, and thank you for being with us. And for everyone that didn't catch everything, we will leave links down in the description below so that you can make sure to hurry and follow Crystal at everything that she's doing. She's amazing. And glad to finally, connect and be friends. So thank you once again. And with that, Nani, why don't you sign us off?
We are Triad of the Force. Thank you so much for joining us. Remember, like, subscribe, leave a comment. Let us know how you're feeling about Skeleton Crew, because we are having so much fun with it so far. Crystal, thank you so much for joining us. It was so much fun. We have a new friend in the Star Wars community. As always, we keep it growing. Send us all some love. And until next time, may the Force be with you.